Welcome to another video, Walk on the Wild Side, and I'm here in Blackpool. I'm on Central Promenade. It's a Thursday evening, around about 7:15. We're not too far away from sunset. And what I thought I'd do in this video, something a little bit simple. I'm going to take a walk along the promenade. From here, we've got the St Chad's Hotel behind me, which is set for demolition very, very soon. I'm going to walk to the tower, up this way, towards the north there. And I'll talk a little bit about the history along the promenade as we go. Okay, now before we set off, I thought I'd better show you this here now. Check this out. We're around about half an hour away from sunset. Look at that. Yeah, I think the tide's coming in. Can you hear that? Wow. Okay, so this is the St Chad's Terrace here, and this contains the St Chad's Hotel. And 1891 is the date on the top of the building there. Yeah, the hotel took up about 75% of the block. There's another hotel over there called the Lyric, and I think there were apartments on the corner, and around the corner was a chippy. Well, the consortium in Singapore bought up the whole block. They bought the whole block up, and now they're going to knock it down and build a state-of-the-art new hotel. It's the same owners that own the hotel next door, the Lindeen Hotel. They're from Singapore. I think they're called Fragrance. Yeah, that's what they're called, yeah. So they might have plans long term for the Lindeen Hotel after they've built this hotel here. Yeah, they've got some quite fancy plans for it actually. Underground car park as well. That's what I heard anyway. Oh, and by the way, if you're new to the channel, could you please hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button as well? I normally say that at the end, but I very rarely say it at the start, so there you go. Don't forget to subscribe and tick the bell for the best videos in Blackpool. You also learn stuff on my channel because I talk a lot about history, and the Lindeen's got a bit of a history. A lot of these hotels along here, like the Lindeen, all started off as separate properties. Yeah, separate properties, houses, grand houses maybe, separate guest houses, and the Lindeen is no different. It's all one now. It was all knocked into one. I think it was back in the 60s. Yeah, and the owner back then, I can't remember his name now. He used to drive a Rolls Royce. The owners now bought it off them back in 2018. It was in the family for a long time, yeah. And I believe that part of it was a coaching house. You see that there, this bit here? A bit of history there on the St Chad's and the Lindeen Hotel as we make our way further north towards Blackpool Tower. So I'm not going to cut this video like I normally do. I'm just going to let it run. So I'm actually filming this in a slightly lower resolution than normal. So, but at the same time, it might look a little bit different because I've upped the frame rate. So I'm shooting this for you tech heads out there. I'm shooting this at 1080-50, and I normally shoot at 4K 25, which is a higher resolution but a lower frame rate. So should look pretty good, I think. There's the tower there. The tower was completed in 1894, Blackpool Tower. I'll talk about it a bit more when we get there. But 518 feet, 9 inches. I think that's quite well known, isn't it? Lots of other towers were also considered also for around the country. They're supposed to be building one on the Isle of Man, Douglas, and that never got going. They built the foundation stone, they put the foundation stone in, and the tower was never built. But they did build a tower at New Brighton. Yeah, but that was ill-fated. And if you want to find out about that, you might want to check out Adventure Me's channel, because he did a really good video about that. The New Brighton Tower. It was even taller than Blackpool Tower, but because of the way it was built, it didn't last. It just didn't last where it was. So I'll just give you a quick look at these hotels over here. We've got a few hotels. Blackpool Promenade Hotel, Sunset Beach, some apart hotels there, Residency. This one over here, the Harper Beach, look at that, they've been doing it up. Whoa, that's quite big news actually. That hotel has been derelict, you know, for a long time, and look at that. I can see people working in there. Next to that is the Dutchman, I think that's for sale. I saw it on a commercial estate agent. Chimes on the sea, crystals on the Prom. It looks like down there used to be a building that was probably knocked down. Can you see there? There's that gap there. I'm not sure if there was always a gap there. It's not a street. At least I don't think it is. I might be wrong there, you know, folks. I might be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm not always right. The Royal Windsor. We're coming up to Manchester Square now. Manchester Square, quite important in Blackpool. Now, I've spoke about it quite a few times on my channel because Manchester Square is where Blackpool got its name, because it's where Seabank, the natural waterway which ran from Main Dyke and Martin Mere Lake, way out east, a really, really big lake that was drained. It was drained, but Seabank originated there. It ran out here and it ran onto the beach. And back then, I'm talking back in the 1600s, 1500s, 1600s, the tide was much further out back then, and it ran and it made a black pool, what the locals called a black pool, right opposite Manchester Square, and that's where Blackpool got its name from. Yeah, so we're now at Manchester Square. This is where the water treatment works is as well. And we also have Rigby Road just over there, which goes down towards Blackpool Transport Depot. And it's this area here where the Black Pool was. And that's how it got its name. And it was first registered at the Bispham Parish Church in Bispham in 1602. Can anyone remember the black and white tower that used to be here? It used to be right here. It was like an extraction vent for the fumes, for the sewers here. We now have it replaced by these pipes. You see these bendy pipes here? They're called venting blades. So those replaced the black and white tower, which used to stand somewhere just up here. And there also used to be a windmill, a mock windmill around here. I don't know how long for, but there was definitely a windmill there at one time. We're just opposite the Royal Seabank. That's a Blackpool Promotions Hotel, the Royal Seabank. So I know a lot of you probably come to Blackpool via Blackpool Promotions. And next to that we've got the Balmoral, and then we've got the Craggy Don. I hope I said that right, the Craggy Don. The Blenheim Mount, Vinnie's, the Golden Cheval Hotel over there. We're coming up to Foxhall Square now, folks. And Foxhall Square as well. A lot of history about Foxhall Square. Yeah, so just up here, folks, this is Foxhall. We've got the Foxhall pub on the corner there, that brown brick building there. There used to be Blackpool's oldest substantial building there, and it was called Foxhall when it was first built. It was a house. It was built by a squire from Myerscough, from out Myerscough, around about 10 miles outside Blackpool. Yeah, he built a summer house here in around about, what, 1675? There was hardly anything here in Blackpool at that time. Can you imagine? This coastline will have been just wild coastline at that time. But Edward Tyldesley, he was from somewhere around about St Michael's. St Michael's, you might have heard of St Michael's. That was put on the map with the disappearance and murder of Nicola Bulley. But that's where Edward Tyldesley was from. And this is where the house stood here, Foxhall it was called. And it then, eventually it became an inn. It became like a hotel, that sort of thing. In 1895 there was a murder there. Yeah, a man murdered his wife. Yeah, can't remember the name. They were called Toomey. Toomey. Yeah, as the tram drives past. The guy, one of the workers there, murdered his wife because he thought she was having affairs. And yet it turned out he was the one having all the affairs in the end. And I think he killed himself because he ended up washed up on Fleetwood Beach a few days later. And they're both buried at Leighton Cemetery. The Toomeys. T-O-O-M-E-Y. Oh, I've just got to turn it around, folks. Look at this. We're coming up to the central pier. Look at that sunset now. It's a little bit murky, to be honest, a little bit murky, but still a nice sunset here in Blackpool. I'm just making my way across this bit here. See all this here? All this was created when they did the promenade. They made the promenade much bigger when they did the sea defences. The only thing is, a lot of this grass here, can you see, it's just turned to beach, hasn't it? It's a little bit rough, yeah. It's just like being on Blackpool Beach, but this was all lawn when they first did it, all grass. You can see some bits of grass. Just over there we've got Gaiety's karaoke bar. There used to be a strip club down there, you know, the Air Strip Club. It was called the Time Gap. Yeah, so this is the Foxhall area we're looking at now. It's one of the oldest parts of Blackpool. Like I say, it was where the Foxhall, it got its name. It got its name from Foxhall, which was built by Edward Tyldesley. And it's also a little bit run down these days, Foxhall. Yeah, I've done a few videos around here. In fact, the first video I did was in the Foxhall area, the main streets of Blackpool. But we're now coming up on the Central Pier. The Central Pier was built in 1868, and it was a competitor to the North Pier. But funny enough, a lot of the people that built the Central Pier were on the same board as the North Pier. So it was a bit of a funny kind of thing where you had these directors that were also directors of the North Pier, which was in competition with the Central Pier, which was meant to appeal more to the working classes, because the North Pier was expensive to go on. And I believe that the Central Pier was free. It was free to go on at that time. And they struggled a bit. They struggled quite a bit until they decided to have trips on the steamers, the steamer boats, yeah? So they decided on the Central Pier, after a couple of years of operation, why don't we do some steamer trips to Southport, which is somewhere right down that way there, Southport. A little trip to Southport on the steamer from the Central Pier, and the amount of people just jumped that came on the Central Pier. And they also did dancing as well. Dancing just seemed to start spontaneously. I don't know if it was planned, but people used to start dancing on there. They built a deck on there especially for dancing. I don't know if you can see, but we've actually got the starlings flying over at the moment. Can you see that? Loads of starlings at the moment, but because of the time of year, I think a lot of the starlings have actually migrated northwards, so there's not quite as many as what there normally is in the winter, yeah. Anyway, let's head to the other side of the Central Pier. Yeah, it's pretty quiet in Blackpool tonight, but the crowds will return. So we're just at the front of the Central Pier. You know, it's actually closed. I'm surprised that the actual arcade is closed, because I'm sure through the winter it would have still been open at this time. So, but there you go. The arcades, it seems a bit weird to see them closed, even in the winter, you know, even off season. You know, because when you come to Blackpool, it's one of those places that's kind of always open. There's always somewhere open in Blackpool. Just down there is Chapel Street. If you're interested in a £1 burger, if you go down there, 2 streets down on the right hand side, that's where Chris's place is for the £1 burger. And just over there is a Happy Days Amusement and Madame Tussauds, which used to be Louis Tussauds, of course. Does anyone remember the Louis Tussauds Chamber of Horrors? I do. It gave me nightmares. Yeah, it did. Oh, that sunset's looking really good, folks. I've got to show you this. Look at this. I don't know if it's going to come over very well, but the sun, I can see the sun setting over there, and it looks absolutely amazing. Look at this. Just listen to the sound of the sea. Yeah, so Louis Tussauds, I think it shut around 2009 or something like that. Doesn't sound like that long ago, actually. But I remember the Chamber of Horrors there, they had like a car crash scene. And it gave me nightmares, it really did. Yeah. Mind you, if I was to look at it today as it was then, it probably wouldn't affect me all that much, you know. But yeah, that's what it used to be like back here in the olden days. So we're just going past the main arcades now. Just over there was Oasis. Oh look, they're sorting out the tram lines, look. Sorting out the tram lines up there. Funland, look. Funland, that was our favourite arcade back in the olden days, Funland. And just over here we've got the Sea Life Centre. Don't forget they've got the Gruffalo. The new, it's going to be the new attraction, the Gruffalo, which they're having on the ground floor there, so that'll be good. I'm just walking across this patch of what used to be grass here, can you see? It's all worn away. You can tell a lot of people walk along this here, can't you? We're just coming up to the RNLI there. The RNLI, the lifeboat house used to be next to the Central Pier. It used to be a tiled building next to the Central Pier, but this is how it looks today. And if there's any emergencies, the staff can park in these bays here. Tower's lighting up. So as the sun touches the horizon, the lights are coming on. There's the Golden Mile, formerly Mr. B's. We thought that was going to shut down for a while, but it's staying open. Staying open. And of course over here we have Coral Island. Coral Island was built after Central Station was demolished. The entrance to Central Station, yeah, that was at around about 1964. About 1964 when Central Station, the entrance was just up here and it faced the tower, Central Station. And I think before they knocked it down, I think it was a bingo. I think they had like a bingo club there. Some of you might remember a bingo club. Just have a look back here at the Golden Mile as we carry on now. We're getting closer and closer to the tower, folks. Yeah, so that was the end of the train track into central Blackpool there. They kept the line open, they kept one of the lines open, the Martin line open, until about 1965. But yeah, that was the end of Central Station. That black building there is the new Sands venue and Blackpool Museum when it finally opens. I think it's also supposed to be a hotel as well. It used to be the Palace nightclub in that building up there, which used to stand on that spot there back in the olden days. Got a couple of businesses on the ground floor. They've got the Spyglass there, and they've also got the Wild West Diner down there as well. Bit controversial, that building there, what do you think? Especially when it's next to this one here, which is my favourite building in Blackpool. It's a Woolworths building, 1938. So this is the Woolworths building, and like I say, it was completed in 1938, and it was a flagship store for Woolworths when it was built. Yeah, Art Deco, look at it, isn't it awesome? It's probably the second most recognisable structure in Blackpool after this. What do you think, folks? I think so. So we're almost at the tower now. I just want to show you what's going on over here. This is the tower headland, and when they did the promenade, when all the seawall defences were done, they created a massive headland in front of Blackpool Tower for people to congregate. Because before all this was done, the promenade, the sea wall, was probably somewhere around about here. It was a very narrow promenade, to be honest, until they did all the sea defences, and then they were able to create this massive, can you see? I'm sure if you've been here, you know how big this area is. It's a massive area. It's about as big as 2 football pitches. It's absolutely huge. And the main attraction here is the comedy carpet, of course, which is like a series of tiles with comedy quotes from comedians, comedy shows from the olden days, Monty Python, Les Dawson, you name it. They've got quotes on the comedy carpet right here. And there you go, folks. It's right in front of the Blackpool Tower. Look at this. So there you go, Blackpool Tower is still standing proud after almost 130 years, yeah. And it might not have ever got going if it wasn't for a chap called Sir John Bickerstaff, who was a mayor of Blackpool at the time. And the tower was struggling. They were struggling to get the thing going, to get the funds to get it going. They were trying to sell shares. They didn't sell enough shares. And Sir John Bickerstaff, who owned properties, he owned bars, he owned pubs, all that sort of thing. He sold some of those and he put them into the fund to build Blackpool Tower. And that's why we have Bickerstaff Square named after him, where the council buildings are in the town centre now. There's even a street named after Bickerstaff as well. So there you go. A little bit of history on Blackpool Tower. So there you go, that was a little walk along Blackpool Promenade, starting at the St Chad's Terrace, yeah, 1891, but it's all due to be demolished any week now as I film this video. And we ended up here at the tower talking about the history of Blackpool Promenade along the way. I hope you like this video. If you do, hit the like button and also hit subscribe and tick the bell for notifications of new videos, and I will see you again on the next one.